Welcome to Sprinkled with Hope podcast. This is your host, Shane, and we have an awesome guest today, Eric McElvenny. He has so much great insight, and we're really excited to present this episode with him and with us, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Eric is going to give us some really good nuggets, things that we should use in our daily lives, and really just he ends with really something awesome. So please listen to the end because it's really, really good stuff, and you will want to hear it.
Welcome to the Sprinkled with Hope podcast.
Welcome to our podcast, Sprinkled with Hope. We have a fantastic guest with us. Eric McElvenny is joining us. Thank you for joining us, Eric.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to our conversation. It's good to be here.
We are so excited to hear. So a little background about Eric. He was a Marine and served for quite a while in the military, and then he'll get into that a little bit more. And now he runs marathons and Ironmans and all those good things. So first of all, thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate you and your willingness to serve me and the country. So thank you, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
And now you run marathons, and you have run the Ironman in Kona, Hawaii. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. That was my first Ironman, and it was amazing. Quite a cool story and cool journey.
Yeah. Kona is such an awesome place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story from the military till, whenever.
Yeah. So I was, I guess we'll just pick up in the military. I was serving as a Marine, and I was in 2011. I was deployed to Afghanistan, and while there, I was injured on a patrol. I had stepped on and triggered an improvised explosive device, an IED, and that led to the amputation of my right leg. I have a right below knee amputation, and really that's what kind of started my next journey. And my next journey started pretty early on after that. It took from Afghanistan through a couple different countries 6 days to get back to the United States, where I did my recovery in San Diego, California. And within 2 weeks, I ended up setting a goal to run an Ironman Triathlon. And the goal kind of came from my commanding officer, who was with me in Afghanistan. He sent me an email. And one day I'm starting to recover, kind of feeling sorry for myself. And I open up this email, and it says, "Hey, Eric, let me know when you're going to run your first marathon." I was like, wow, First, I thought, what a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Why would you say that? But honestly, that's something I needed to hear. I was going through my head, what are some of the things I won't be able to do anymore now that I only have one leg? And he kind of throws that at me, and he challenges me, and we care about the people that we challenge, and that's leadership right there. So he threw that at me, and I had to one up the marathon, and I decided, I'm going to run my first marathon on the third leg of my first Ironman triathlon, because the running portion of the Ironman is a marathon. So I set that goal, and started heading towards it. And really, it was a team effort. At that time, my wife and we had a 5-year-old daughter, so they were like the core of my team. And it was just really an amazing journey.
That is such a great inspirational story. And I first off, I want to thank you for your service as a brother in arms, and, serving in the Army. I really do appreciate what you've done for us and our country.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a privilege and an honor, right, for us to serve our country and to do that. And I wouldn't take it back for anything. So,
yeah, I totally agree. It's one of the things. A lot of people ask me that too. It's like, hey, if you knew this was going to happen, would you change it? It's like, no, I loved being a Marine. It was an honor having the privilege to serve our country, something that I wanted to do for a while. And I think that's one thing that we all share is, mostly we wanted to be there, and it's, I kind of took pride in it and having this purpose larger than myself. I appreciated that opportunity.
Absolutely. So I got a question for you. What are you most excited about in your life right now? Like what's really the most exciting thing going on in Eric's life?
When you said that, I was scrolling through a bunch of different things, but I would have to say that like the number one thing in my life are my 3 children. I have a 14-year-old girl, a 7-year-old girl, and a 4-year-old boy. And that, like being a dad, that is such a cool responsibility. I get to raise another little human being.
Yeah.
And it's just so important to my wife and I. We have goals to develop this foundation in them. And, we're kind of we're in it and we're doing it. And, it's messy sometimes, but it's just so rewarding at the same time. So I think that would be my number one, would be, my family. And I think on just a couple different levels, family, my faith is very important to me. My faith is as a Christian, and that's, I love when your podcast is sprinkled with hope, and that's what really brings me hope. It gets me out of the bed in the morning and ready to tackle another day, another mission. And and then thirdly, just on that whole athletic side of things, because that's been a huge part of my life since my injury. I guess it's always been a part of my life, but since my injury, I've been racing these Ironman triathlons, and I just recently got into trying to qualify for the Paralympics in paratriathlon.
Oh, great!
So
that's awesome.
I've been at it for a little bit, and then they got postponed, which is kind of a lot giving me a little bit more time, because I was still pretty new to it's a shorter distance triathlon, and I was used to doing these all day events. So this shorter distance one, it's like, wow, my heart rate can get up to into like the 200s. I didn't know that.
This is easy.
So it's been interesting. It's been fun, but that's it's a really cool goal, and again, like another journey that I'm on, but like I get to kind of bring my family on as well. So it's I guess those are 3 of the big things in my life.
That's really cool. I just got done playing soccer tonight, and you've already shared with us a lot of things that get you up in the morning and get you going. And certainly you could, if you wanted, to have a lot of excuses, a lot more than I think some other people, but you continually don't give in to those. Tell us how you keep yourself motivated to do these things.
Yeah, how do I keep myself motivated? It's a good question, because there are days that I don't feel very motivated, and that happens to everyone. And I've just been fortunate to have people in my life that have really impacted me at important times. There have been times that I've wanted to give in and quit. On my way to my first Ironman, the 3 months prior to it, and in an Ironman, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a 26.2 mile run. So it's a big day.
Wow.
And the training is difficult and it's hard. And the 3 months prior, I had 3 different staph infections in my limb, my nub, just because of the rubbing and blistering from the prosthetic. And one day I was seeing my prosthetic practitioner. His name is Peter Harsh, and he's in Southern California. And I was ready to call it quits, because my doctor even said, I don't think this sport's for you. I'm like, yeah, you could be right. I don't know. But I said, Peter, I don't think this Ironman is for someone with one leg. This is obviously not working. And he took a moment of like just 2 or 3 seconds if there was some silence, and I'm kind of waiting for a reply. And he gave it to me. He said, Eric, like, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. And I was like, oh man, Darn it. You're right. That's why I set that goal to run an Ironman, because it sounded hard. It sounded nearly impossible at the time that I set that goal, and it inspired me. To have a goal that inspires you, that, again, that's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. So when he said that, I was like, you're right. And I'm not ready. So it was just little things like that where people would come into my life and say that. And I'm a pretty visual person, where I kind of, when I'm having a rough day and I don't feel like heading to the pool to swim, I just think of the next race. And like right now, I'm able to like picture the Paralympics and be like, you know what, like when I'm flying out there, I'm gonna wish that I would have got this swim training in today. So I'm gonna get myself out of bed and I'm gonna go do it, because if you don't do it, someone else will, and there's consequences if you decide not to. And then there's other days that are just awesome. You get up and you're like, yeah, I am going to attack the world right now and take no prisoners. We're going. Let's do this. We're going to beat the sun up, and it's a good day. But there are definitely those difficult days, and that's when I have to look forward, and I have to remind myself what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it. And that's one of the things, like, why am I doing this whole Paralympic thing? I had to put some reasons to it so I could get up in the morning. One, I want to be an example to my kids. I had the privilege of serving my country in uniform, and now I have an opportunity to represent my country in sport. Like, I think that's cool. And it's, again, a goal that is just, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not. So it's worth at least trying. So if you find that why and that purpose, and I think it gets you going when you're down.
That's awesome. I thank you for sharing that. Just thinking about what you're talking about. I mean, Shane's right. You have a lot of reasons not to do them, right? And so how do we as individuals, when we are faced with these challenges, how else would you add on to that we get through those, other than, kind of what you've already talked about?
Yeah. It's, I kind of boil it down to a few things. And like, when you're talking about excuses, we all have them. And I'll share just a quick story with you. My daughter, so when I was injured, my daughter was 5, and she's cool. Her name is Lupe. She was 5. It's kind of a weird thing. Her dad came back from war missing a leg, but she didn't see that. She just saw me as being dad, and I'm home, and thankful. She was thankful for it. And when I was injured, I was given a handicap placard, and at first, like, I didn't want to be handicapped, so I threw that thing away. And then I don't know why, but for some reason, I got another one in the mail a couple months later. And I hung on to it because I at that time, I was driving a truck and living in San Diego, and there's not always a ton of parking. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep this in my glove box for a rainy day. And I started using that thing pretty often. And I would get out of my truck, and I if I was wearing pants or something, I would even limp a little bit. So it's like, hey, look, I got this web thing. Yeah, that's where I'm parking. And one day I was with my daughter, and I had never used it with her before. So like we went to the store. It was a grocery store. We pull into the parking lot. There was no parking. And I was just a little bit impatient at that time. So I just, I'm not dealing with this. I zip to the front, pull into a handicapped spot. I grab my placard out of that glove box and I hang it up, and I say, Lupe, let's go. And we get out of my truck and we start walking towards the store. And she says, Dad, what was that magic blue ticket? I laugh a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, because Daddy only has one leg, I'm allowed to park right there. That spot with that sign, that's for people like me with one leg. But without missing a beat, she says, but Dad, you have 5 legs. And she's talking about my prosthetics. She says, you have 5 legs. You have a running leg, you have a biking leg, you have a water leg, you have a walking leg, and you have your left leg. And I thought it was hilarious. And I chuckle a little bit. I'm like, let's go. We walk into the store, and walking through the aisles, I was feeling guilty. And that's when I realized, it's like, I have nothing against handicap parking, but I ran 6 miles that day. I was training for an Ironman triathlon. Someone needed that spot more than I did. I was just using my leg as an excuse because it was convenient for me. When it was convenient for me. And I realized it was more than just parking. It was other things in my life. It was training. I'd go on a run. If I couldn't keep up with my buddies, I'd be like, hey, you guys keep going. I got this leg thing going on. I was using my leg as an excuse, and it was holding me back from actually reaching my potential. And that day in the store, walking through the aisles with Lupe, my daughter, I promised myself that I would never use this stupid leg as an excuse again. And it was such a freeing moment. And I share that because, we all have excuses, maybe we don't have enough time. Maybe we didn't get enough sleep. Maybe we don't have enough money, or maybe whatever it is. We all have excuses. And I like to challenge people. Like, next time you're going to use an excuse, ask yourself, like, what is it holding you back from reaching? Like, that excuse, using my leg as an excuse, was holding me back from actually reaching my goal of finishing an Ironman. So when I let go of it, like, I was kind of free to go and push and do it. And I just, we're human and we have excuses, and it's okay. And sometimes they make sense, but if you can get in the habit of shrugging those things off and pushing forward anyway, there's a reward at the end.
Yeah. That's such a great story. I mean, there's humor in it, and but I think also there's a lesson, and I think it's so amazing that kids can teach us lessons. If we're willing to listen to what they're teaching us, like you were to your daughter, she really taught you a valuable lesson, and so I think that's a great story. Something that won't hold you back now, but it really came from her mouth, and I think that's one of the cooler parts of that story.
Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about goals and reaching specific things. You might run so much today, or bike or swim or whatever. Do you think do you think goals and milestones, do you think one of them is more important than the other, or do you consider both of them to be equals, so to say?
I would. That's a great question. Right off the bat, I would say equal, but I'm thinking about it. Like, I think that goal, the end state, is very important. To know where you want to end up and why you want to end up there. That big goal is important. So when I set a goal to run an Ironman, like, it felt impossible. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what the plan was, but that's what we started with. We started with that plan, and I started picturing myself out on the course with legs, trying to figure this thing out, and that was it. And then I started working backwards, like, with my team. I had a ton of people helping me out, and that's when what's the first step? Well, first step is I have to learn how to walk. Milestone number 1: I need to get a prosthetic leg and learn how to walk, and that became very important because the first month after my injury, so I'm recovering. Things are better than they were, 3 weeks ago. But at that time, to think about finishing that Ironman was pretty out of reach. So honestly, that wasn't going to motivate me to get out of bed. But to think about walking, and we put a time stamp on that one because my Marines that I was deployed with, they were going to be back about 2 months after my injury. So it's like, I want to be standing on a prosthetic leg when they get off that plane from Afghanistan. So, like, that milestone right there became, that was kind of the most important thing at that time. And then we hit that. I was up standing when they got off the plane. It's like, yes, what's the next thing? I have to learn how to run. So, we put a time on that, and it's like, okay, we got to put it together. I got to do a sprint triathlon. And so we just kept hitting these milestone after milestone. And at that time, those milestones are so important, but some of them moved a little bit. Some of them changed because the end goal didn't change. Finish an Ironman. We had a plan, we had milestones, but those milestones, they had to move around and change and flex a little bit, because that's life. It's good to have a plan, but no plan really survives first. Well, as a Marine, we say no plan. Everyone has the perfect plan, but no plan survives first rounds down range. As soon as you start getting shot at, and everything changes. But
Right.
if you know the end state, we have to take this hill. Then you have a bunch of guys that know that. We're going to figure out how to do it. So a couple of the milestones might change, but we're still going to complete that goal. So coming up with that goal is important. And I would say, like, when you're coming up with a goal, think like a kid a little bit. when I share, because I get to speak, I get to travel around and get on a stage and speak, and I'll speak at some corporate events and some school events and a little of everything, because I talk about overcoming challenge. It's a very versatile topic, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
If I go, I went to a corporate event, and I said, hey, who here thinks they could finish an Ironman, at the end of my talk? And not one hand went up.
Mm-hmm.
And a month prior to that, I was at a school, and I was speaking to kindergarten, first and second graders, and I told them, like, the story and everything. And I said, who here thinks they could finish an Ironman? Guess how many hands went up?
Yeah.
All of them.
Every single one of them. There were people jumping up like, pick me, I want to go run one right now. I was like, whoa, you guys are awesome. And when I thought about it, those people, like the adults in that corporate audience, and you have the kids, honestly, those kids were the ones that were correct. You know, it's if you set a goal and you start working towards it, you can probably achieve it. And they were thinking like a kid. So I say, when I set my goal, I was thinking like a kid. I was like, yeah, I'm going to run an Ironman. Uh-oh, now what? Now what did I get myself into? But I say, set a goal that inspires you, and that, you know, you have a good reason behind it. And that doesn't have to be a physical goal, like a professional goal, a relationship goal. Goals are important. Goals are important.
Yeah. I like how you just put that so simply, Eric. I think it really brought it down to kind of a level that hopefully we can all get on, right? At the kids level and think at that level. And so I appreciate you sharing that. I think that was pretty insightful. What is the biggest lesson you've learned over the last 12 months? What would you say is something you've learned?
I've learned that it's important. It's actually, and I've known this. It's something that I've learned. Being a Marine, then being injured and everything. But over these past 12 months, a lot of things have changed in this world, and the ability to adapt and overcome and handle change and transition is it's quite a characteristic, quite a quality if you can do that. And, you know, when things change, life changes, whether, you know, there's a pandemic in the world or whatever's going on, we are going to influence and impact the people around us. You know, the people at work, your family. Like, we don't get to make that choice. Like, we are going to influence the people around us, but the choice that we do get to make each and every day is whether we're going to influence the people around us in a positive way or a negative way. And that's the choice that, you know, again, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, you know, I'm going to try to impact my family or my team, or if I'm going to give a speech, this audience or whatever, I'm going to try to impact them in a positive way. So what can I do to do that? So I just think it's so important to understand how to handle change, how to adapt, and how to bring like some positivity into any environment.
I love that.
Yeah, that's such great insight. And I was just thinking, when you were talking about change, certainly a lot of things have changed in your life throughout the years, going back to your injury and all of that. I mean, that alone is a significant change. I've been very inspired by you. I hope in the near future that I don't use all my excuses that I normally use, and I I find myself more motivated like you. You know, that I've just been very inspired by you. So it's been awesome for me to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Eric, just kind of wrapping up here, what might be some closing, remarks that you might say? And I do appreciate the things that you said thus far. It has been inspiring and makes me want to be better. But what would be some of your closing remarks here?
A big time closing remark for me would be priorities. And I once had a high school student ask me. It was a high school basketball player. He actually said, "If you can go back to the day that you were injured, what would you change?" And at first I said, well, I probably wouldn't step right there because that hurt. Maybe I'll go around it. And then I was like, that's not what he's asking. And I was like, okay, if I had to think about it, but if I had to go back, like, what would I change? I don't think I would change anything. And I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't change anything because the events that happened helped create the person that I am right now, those experiences, and they helped me realize what my priorities were. And I didn't share exactly the moment of impact when I was injured, but there was a brief moment that I thought that could be it. And two thoughts actually went through my head. First, I thought I was going to get to go to heaven, and I was a little bit curious. And then I thought about my wife and my daughter, and I was scared that I was going to die because I wanted to stay on this earth. So when I think back to that moment, it's still very clear. The whole incident is very clear in my mind. I think back to that and I realize when I thought that there was a chance I was dying, there were two things that I thought about. It was my faith and my family. Those must be the two most important things in my life. Like I didn't think about my mortgage payment. I didn't think about the car I was driving. Didn't think about what shoes I was going to wear. I didn't think about work. I thought about my faith and my family and realized those are my priorities. And I had to ask myself, am I living according to my priorities? And I honestly had to make some rudder steers to get on track. And every once in a while, as I'm trying to stay on track, I'll veer off and my wife will punch me in the hip or something. Get me back on track. But I think it's very important to understand what your priorities are. So what are your priorities? Are you living according to them? If not, what do you need to do to get on track?
That's so awesome. Again, thank you so much for your time, for all of your insight, for your service, for your faith, for all of the lessons that you've taught us in this short time. I certainly know that I'll take a lot from this discussion. So I really appreciate your time, Eric.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been fun. And I look forward to continue listening to you guys. Thanks for doing what you do. This is just great stuff that you guys are putting out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. I really do appreciate it. This has been a wonderful discussion, and there's been a lot of little nuggets that you've given us that hopefully, each one of us can take to heart, right? And to really use them in our lives. And what is our priorities? And we should really think about those things, Yeah. If we are gone tomorrow, what would we think about? Definitely not my mortgage, right?
Right. Some of the problems.
Yep. Yeah.
We'll also be cheering you on for the Olympics. We're your biggest fans now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I need some fans. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll be your fans for sure.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Best wishes to you and your family.
All right. Thank you. You guys take care.
All right. You too.
This is Sprinkled with Hope. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend.
If you like our podcast, please give us a review or rating.